Welcome, everybody. This is Justin from Vigilant News. I am also founder of Stillness in the Storm. I'm joined by my co-host, Ryan Delarm. Ryan, how's it going?
Good to be here.
Ryan is the founder of Underground Newswire. He also has a solo project. So Ryan's giving us updates from the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. We're going to be covering those as long as the trial is taking place in these short videos that we started last night. We're hosting these on Rumble, so be sure to check that out. I'm also posting them to our YouTube and Gab TV, so you can also check them out there. Before we get started, I just want to thank everybody for their support. If you want to support us, you can check out some of the links in our description. We have several sponsors there like Ascent Nutrition and EMF Harmonized. If you purchase a product from them, we get a little bit of a commission out of the deal. I also want to thank you for joining Subscribestar, where you can, for as little as the price of a cup of coffee, support us. And any direct donations you want to happen to make to stillnessinthestorm.com/donate, we also greatly appreciate. And with that, let's go ahead and get with the updates. What do we got for us today, Ryan?
Well, Justin, it's been a real pleasure covering this trial. It's been a very joyful event in my life, personally, I must say.
Yeah.
Let's see. The Ghislaine Maxwell trial began Monday and will continue for the next 6 weeks, hopefully leading to some form of justice for the accusers and the many unknown individuals who remain out of the spotlight. Unfortunately, several red flags have already emerged, and it's only day 2 of the trial.
Like, what did you find?
Well, yesterday, as we were doing the research and getting ready for the live, we found out that James Comey, the disgraced FBI director's daughter, is part of the prosecution. She's one of the lead prosecutors, so it doesn't leave much hope on the table for any kind of justice to come through. But you never know,
Right.
You never know who's working for who. So that's the first potential conflict of interest. Her name's Maureen Comey. And you all know Comey. He has ties to the Clintons, as well as a history of dishonesty. He lied to Congress, and he has deep state connections. Another red flag is the first witness, one Lawrence Paul Visacki Jr., who piloted the infamous Lolita Express for over a quarter of a century and was close with Epstein, so close with Epstein that the late financier hosted Visacki's daughter's wedding at the infamous Zorro Ranch in New Mexico.
Wow.
Yeah, this morning when I was following the trial, I had a prediction that the pilot would stand tall, so to speak, and kind of do a little damage control for the gruesome duo, and my intuition proved correct. While giving his testimony, Epstein's former pilot claimed that he never witnessed any sexual activity in the 30 years that he flew Epstein around the world.
Interesting.
A statement which runs counter to the claims put forth by Shante Davis and many of the other accusers. He claimed that he never saw any underage girls on any of the 1,000 or so flights that he piloted from 1994 to 2004, I believe. Another statement that contests the claims put forth by the accuser and victim Virginia Roberts, which is the gal who is seen pictured with Prince Andrew.
Right, Prince Andrew, yeah.
Yes. Okay. Visacki said he flew Roberts in the mid to late 90s, but never believed her to be a shorter woman with dirty blonde hair. He added that he believed an Epstein associate named Jane that he met on one of the planes was a mature woman with some piercing powdered blue eyes. Prosecutors entered the birth certificate for this Jane into the evidence under seal. So I suspect that she was probably like 14 or 15 years old, something like that. Yet he's saying he remembers a mature woman with piercing powdered blue eyes.
So how reliable is his cover for Epstein if he can't even remember the fact that she was underage?
Exactly. I think this guy has plenty of incentive to cover for Epstein, even now that he's dead, because this guy is pretty much implicated in all of this too. So like, why would he rat on himself?
Right.
Let's see. So the first big name drop came in the case today as Bill Clinton. Former President Bill Clinton was among the high profile names brought up in the cross-examination of the pilot. He said that he would have been told in advance when a guest like Clinton was going to be flying on the jet. The defense asked, will there be special catering? Which, a very important question. Christian Everdell, who is the defense, he asked us about Clinton. And yeah, they I think they showed photographs of Maxwell aboard the Lolita Express with Bill Clinton. So
Mhm.
all of the pictures I've seen are pretty tame. They don't really depict any of the stuff that we've been hearing about beyond this picture of what Quentin Tarantino sucking on some little girl's toes or something.
Oh, right.
And
Yeah.
that can't even be proven to be the actual Lolita Express,
Sure.
but I wouldn't doubt it if it was.
Right. Right.
When asked if he remembered the victim in the case identified as Jane riding on the plane, the pilot said, "I can't visualize her sitting in the passenger compartment like I would say President Clinton," which is kind of like a runaround answer. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I can't remember. That's like, it's not specifically answering the question. You're kind of warping your answer to make it legally like acceptable,
Right.
but still kind of dodging,
Precisely. Yeah.
Let's see. During the cross-examination of Bisaki Jr., Maxwell's defense attorney asked about any gifts the late Epstein bestowed upon his longtime employee. Visaki, who worked for Epstein for nearly 30 years, received a number of pricey gifts throughout his employment, including 40 acres on the New Mexico ranch that he was allowed to build a house on. He also was given like a Land Rover, a Mercedes, and a Jaguar.
Wow.
So yeah, he claims that if I had the slightest inkling that they were abusing underage girls, I would have quit my job. Well, I mean, it sounds like it was pretty cushy. So if you would have turned that down, I don't know. I'm just saying, it just seems like it's within reason to suspect that he knew what was going on, and he was bribed into continuing to do whatever he was doing.
Right. Yep.
Let's see. Epstein listed a number of expenses and vehicles in his name. I guess he would let the other staff use these vehicles and stuff. This is just some kind of like ancillary info that doesn't really apply to the case too much. Let's see. The well taken care of pilot, who Epstein employed for several decades, claims he had never seen the slightest inkling that his boss or Maxwell ever abusing young girls. Let's see. Then they adjourned for lunch. When they came back, the first accuser took the stand. This woman's going by, I think, Jane Doe is like a pseudonym.
Right.
She is one of the 4 alleged victims mentioned in the indictment against Ghislaine when she was arrested. The prosecutor asked, "Who was most frequently in the room with you when you had sexual contact with Jeffrey Epstein at 14 years old?" To which the accuser replied, "Ghislaine Maxwell." So that's the first little bit of like possible justice going on in this case. Everything so far has been damage control.
Right.
Let's see. Jane says she first met Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell when she was at Camp Interlochen in Michigan in the summer of '94, between 7th and 8th grade.
Wow.
The first accuser to take the stand, identified as Jane, described how Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein abused her over a number of years, starting in '94. In one instance, she said Maxwell and Epstein brought her up a staircase into Epstein's bedroom at his Palm Beach mansion and started undressing. "They moved me over to the bed and took their clothes off, and they started to sort of fondle each other," Jane said, adding that they casually giggled about it. "They asked me to take my top off. Then there were hands everywhere," she said. And now, as we mentioned yesterday, they're redacting anything that is considered impure or sensational, which could very well be like 90% of this case, except for little like minor questions like, did you do special catering for Bill Clinton?
Right.
So yeah, a lot of this stuff is going to be redacted, but there's more to come tomorrow. I believe she'll still be testifying. And as far as the actual trial, that's the last of the news we have. There are some other hopeful nuggets. Did you have any comments you wanted to make? Yeah,
well, I thought it was quite revealing that the pilot had been receiving benefits from Epstein for a quarter of a century, so 25 years.
30 years.
30 years. So 3 decades, this guy's been receiving benefits. Now, let's just think about this for a moment practically. You're living in a neighborhood and your neighbor, as a thank you, is just giving you all sorts of things. Thank you maybe for helping him with this or that. And before you know it, you've got a really good relationship with him. Are you going to feel an urge to maybe hide the truth to protect your neighbor if he gets in trouble with the law? I think so, definitely. Now, imagine that times a million, because now we're dealing with somebody like Jeffrey Epstein, who you as a pilot know that this guy is connected because you're flying people to his island all the time. Presidents, major officials, parliamentarians, celebrities, you name it, big high rollers, right? And you're also receiving benefits from Epstein, and you live right next to him on this ranch in, I think it was New Mexico.
Yeah,
So
Zorro Ranch, that's right.
the Zorro Ranch. So that, in my mind, psychologically, looking at it psychologically, I would say that that person has a severe or a very well established relationship with Epstein, this pilot. And the sense of loyalty that he will have to try to protect Epstein is extremely high. Now, we also have the fact that he wasn't even able to remember that the 14-year-old girl that slept with Prince Edward, or Prince Andrew, excuse me, Prince Andrew, he couldn't even tell that she was 14. So how reliable is his testimony?
Yeah,
and it's possible that the defense might pick up on this and try to argue that his testimony is reliable. Or it's possible that the defense will allow all this to happen because they've got some bigger guns in the works. It's hard to know what we're going to see from this. One last thing I'll say is a lot of people seem to think this is going to turn into a nothing burger, but I'm not so sure. What do you think?
Well, there is a little nugget of hope that kind of yesterday you said that, who knows what kind of like stop the Patriots could pull out, during this case. And it seems like something did actually happen. We have the FAA accidentally disclosing more than 2,000 flight records associated with Jeffrey Epstein's private jets.
Wow.
Right as this case is taking off.
Okay, so our first leak.
Yeah.
Wow.
First leak. And it came from, and the funny thing is Business Insider, this is where it's coming from. They requested this information months and months ago, and they were actually originally denied the information. But then they just accidentally released it to them now, right when the case is starting.
Interesting.
So
wow.
Just a couple data points. We have Insider requested all flight history data associated with the 4 planes owned by Jeffrey Epstein. The FAA rejected the request, but later provided the records in response to an unrelated request. So the new FAA records include hundreds of previously unknown flights made by Epstein's jets. They corroborate insiders' reporting on Epstein's travel patterns as documented in court records and flight signal data. We can probably throw this also in the mix. I sent you a copy of the article. There's some cool like charts involved that kind of show like when he was most active and stuff like that. So anyway, I find if there's any kind of like white hat activity going on, I think this would be it.
Well, yeah, that's what I was thinking, is that it reminds me of the FOIA request that somebody put in asking about Antifa. And then they received patents about mind control technology.
Yeah, psionic weaponry. That was weird. And that was just like, what, a month ago?
I think it was a few earlier than that, but nevertheless, the point is that those things happen, and the timing and the impact is so beneficial for freedom and for the alliance that it makes me believe that it is somebody potentially in the alliance. I happen to think that the cabal is not a fully functioning 100% everybody's in on the game type of situation. What I think that the cabal is a loose network of criminals who establish a dominance hierarchy through intimidation and force, which means it creates a high propensity for disloyalty and people wanting to jump ship and do all sorts of things on their own. So it's very easy to flip people given that type of antagonistic environment. And it makes me think if that's what we're seeing here.
Yeah.
So you said you had some positive nuggets for us as well?
Well, that was actually the most positive
okay,
nugget.
all right.
And as you were saying earlier, maybe the prosecution is holding out some kind of like, special big guns. But we got to remember that one half of the prosecution is Comey's daughter. So
right, exactly.
Who knows? But that doesn't mean anything. It's only day 2, and hope springs eternal.
Exactly. Yeah, we'll see. So, well, excellent, Ryan. Well, thanks so much for your updates.
Yeah,
appreciate it.
My pleasure. We'll be back tomorrow.
That's right. We'll be back tomorrow, everybody. Thank you so much for your support, and we greatly appreciate your tuning in and your patronage, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Take care, everybody.